Hey guys, for today's video I will cover Phainon's kit and everything else you need to reach his full potential. I'll cover what relics and ornaments to use, what cones to use, and what teams, while also providing timestamps and a summarized explanation for his kit, since his playstyle is pretty simple, but his kit was extremely difficult for me to grasp even after spending an extraneous amount of time on this video. Starting off with this kit, his talent states that when he gets 12 core flame stacks, his ultimate can be activated. He can also have a max of 3 more core flame stacks after that. It also states that when an enemy targets Phainon, he gets 1 core flame, and if an ally targets him, he gets an additional 30% crit damage. His skill gives him 2 core flames, and his ultimate sets up a territory, and where all enemies are applied with physical weakness, all allies are departed, and Phainon gets 8 turns with a fixed speed of 60% of his original speed, and uses a final hit when ending the ultimate. For his ultimate talent, it states that when transforming, gains 4 points of scored. If he transforms during an ally targets his turn, all buffs on that ally target will be extended by 1 turn, and the current turn will end. Phainon, during his ultimate, is immune to crowd control effects and has 1 enhanced basic attack and 2 enhanced skills. His attack is also increased by 80% and his max HP by 270%, and restores HP equal to 20% of his max HP after attacking. Upon taking a killing blow, Phainon will not get knocked down and will instead restore HP equal to 25% of his max HP and immediately launch a final hit, in which for every 1 remaining extra turn that Phainon has during his ultimate, the final hit's damage multiplier will be reduced by 12.5% of its original multiplier. It also states that after the ultimate, it increases all allies' speed by 15%, lasting for 1 turn. For his ultimate basic attack, he obtains 2 stacks of Scourge. For his ultimate counter, which counts as both skill and follow-up attack damage, he gains Scourge stacks equal to the number of enemy targets and 1 stack of Scourge, then causes all enemy targets to immediately take action. His damage received when using this counter is reduced by 75%, and he gains 1 additional stack of Scourge after enemy targets attack or take action. After enemy targets take their action, he deals damage to all enemies as well as an additional 4 instances of damage. Then Soul Rendering Blaze is dispelled, and each stack of Soul Rendering Blaze increases this counter's damage multiplier by 20% of its original multiplier. And if Soul Rendering Blaze is still active at the start of Phainon's turn, he immediately launches his counter. For his ultimate skill, it requires 4 stacks of Scourge to unleash. It dispels all debuffs, then deals a massive amount of damage to all enemies, and for every stack of Scourge consumed, he deals a decent amount of bounce damage as well. And if he consumes 4 stacks of Scourge in total, he deals a ton more damage that is evenly distributed across all targets on the field. For his first trace at the start of the battle, gains 1 point of core flame. When the transformation ends from his ultimate, he gains 3 more points of core flame. For his second trace, when receiving healing effects or shields from a teammate, increases damage dealt by 45% for 4 turns. This effect cannot be triggered repeatedly within 1 turn, and when receiving energy regeneration ability effects provided by teammates, he gains 1 additional stack of core flame. For his third trace, when entering battle or when his transformation ends, it increases his attack by 50% for up to 2 stacks. In short, Phainon's sole purpose prior to using his ultimate is to gain as many ultimate stacks as possible, which he can get when being targeted by an ally's skill, when being targeted by an enemy, when being given ultimate energy at the start of the battle through his trace, at the end of his ultimate through that same trace, and through his skill. His ultimate makes it so that it's only Phainon on the battlefield, in where he has a limited amount of turns, he is immune to crowd control effects, and is able to screenshot the buffs that he had prior to using his ultimate, meaning that regardless of how many turns were left on the buffs that he had, those buffs will become permanent as long as he is in his territory. Once he's in his territory, your goal is to collect as many Scourge stacks as possible so that you can spam his enhanced skill, which requires 4 Scourge stacks out of a total of 7 possible Scourge stacks that you can get. You can do this by either using your basic attack and getting 2 stacks, or by using your counter to get Scourge stacks equal to the number of enemy target. After his ultimate is done, he will do a final hit, and if he gets knocked down during his ultimate, he regens his health and does a final hit whose damage is reduced by each turn that he had left during his ultimate. For his relics, the Wave Strider Captain set is going to be his best in slot, since he is constantly getting targeted by his allies, giving him 48% attack and 16% crit damage. For an alternative, the Scholar Lost in Erudition set is a decent alternative, since it gives him a ton of skill damage dealt, which is really good for him since the majority of his damage comes from using his ultimate skill. For his Planner set, the New Arcadia of Woven Dreams is going to be his best in slot, because it increases his damage dealt by up to 36% when he uses his ultimate. For an alternative, you're going to to want the Rudolin Arena set since most of his damage is going to come from his ultimate skill. And for another alternative, Enor Saltoto will also be decent since his final hits and counter damage will also be increased. Keep in mind that these alternatives are far from ideal, with the most recent sets being far better. For his chest, you're going to want crit rate or crit damage. For his feet, you're going to want speed. For his sphere, you're going to want physical damage bonus. And for his rope, you're going to want attack percentage. For his substats, you're going to want crit rate and crit damage, attack percentage, and speed. For his light cones, his signature light cone is going to be his best since it increases his speed, damage dealt, and it lets him ignore defense. For a 5-star alternative, Don Hong's signature would be good because it provides him with a much needed crit rate buff and a good amount of attack percentage. For a free-to-play alternative, the 5-star light cone in the Herdesh's shop is also good because it increases his attack and damage dealt by a substantial amount. For a 4-star alternative, the new Battle Pass light cone, a Trail of Bygone Blood, will also be good because it also gives him crit rate and that increases his ultimate and, most importantly, his skill damage dealt. Another good 4-star alternative would be a Secret Vow because it gives him an unconditional damage dealt buff that has an easy to reach potential to turn into an 80% damage dealt buff that applies to all of his attacks. For his teams, Phainon is going to want teammates who can apply buffs, shields, heals, and preferably energy recharge as well so that he can get his ultimate faster. This means that characters like Ruan Mei, Cypher, Silverwolf, and Tribby are all going to be really bad with him since all of their damage amplifying effects derive from their passives or from using their skills and ultimates on themselves. With this in mind, his best supports are going to be Sunday, Robin, Sparkle, RMC, Bronya, Ting Yun, and even Yukong. Sunday is by far his best support since he can give Phainon 3 stacks in total when using his skill and ultimate on him, while also advancing him forward so that he can use his skill and gain 2 more stacks. He's also skill point neutral, which is crucial on a team that requires you to spam skills that target Phainon, and he also provides the best hyper carry damage buffs in the game, which Phainon can screenshot when going into his ultimate. Robin would be a decent teammate because she can give a ton of really good damage amplifying buffs, and she can advance the entire team forward, allowing for Sunday to do once again what I already mentioned. Sparkle is also a good support considering that she can help be skill point positive, also has good hyper carry support buffs, can also advance Phainon, and can provide only 1 less stack for Phainon's ultimate compared to Sunday. RMC is also a good support since he can provide Phainon with 1 stack, advance him forward, and give him a true damage buff, which is the least dilutable damage buff in the game. Bronya, however, is probably going to be one of his best supports since she is fairly similar to Sunday in the sense that she also has good hyper carry buffs like her damage dealt, which only lasts for 1 turn, but which Phainon can take advantage of throughout his entire ultimate since he can screenshot the buff. She can also advance Phainon forward, provide only 1 less stack than Sunday for Phainon's ultimate, and can be skill point friendly with their signature light cone. Ting Yun is also a good support since she's a 4-star and can provide as many stacks as Sunday, although her buffs aren't as good, and she can advance Phainon forward. Yukong is a bit of a stretch since she is also a 4-star who can advance Phainon and who doesn't provide him with any stacks, but she has a heavy turn restriction on her buffs, similar to Brownius' damage dealt, which only lasts for 1 turn, that Phainon can fix by screenshotting her 80% attack buff. When it comes to sustainers, Phainon's best in slot teams are typically going to be sustainless, so using a sustainer is highly discouraged, but in case you are in need of a sustainer for whatever context you find yourself in, sustainers that can apply effects onto Phainon and give him more ultimate stacks like Adventurine and Huohuo are going to be really good, especially Huohuo, who can provide Phainon with 1 more stack through her ultimate since she increases his energy, and she provides him with even more attack percentage. Now, should you summon on Phainon? If you've done the newest MOC 12, you should probably already know that Phainon is going to be designed to be an absolute powerhouse. Phainon's playstyle may be extremely simple, which to some can get boring, but he is extremely powerful when going up against incredibly powerful enemies since he is so tanky and powerful that he doesn't even need to run a sustainer on his team. Regardless, Phainon isn't anything meta breaking and is only as good as the current meta, meaning that if you already have a meta DPS like Castris, Medei, Aglea, Doherda, or even Anaxa, then you don't need to summon on him. If anything, picking up Tribby if you don't have her would probably be better for your account. In conclusion, Phainon isn't a must-have unit as there are many other replacements to him currently in the meta.